But like I say, then everybody's very secretive about what they caught in the river. We used to fish a field called the Morver Field, and the Morver had pools in it. Stacey's pool, the pool of rifles. You had Danrath pool. You had the Pump House pool, Sandy Bank, the Back Straight. You were all in one field, and I remember 26 salmon coming off that field in a day. And like people were having, some people had 3 or 4. Paul James and his father had 5 between them. And it was just salmon coming through and sitting there. And people used to subsidise their income just by fishing, And the coracles, I grew up next to a coracle family, the Eliases. And they used to have good times, you always knew when the coracles were doing well, because on a Sunday afternoon in the old Labour Club in Priory Street, in the car park, you'd see them, they'd be playing 3-card brag and gambling, and they'd be going like £5 and £10 blind. Like, people didn't, when I was 11 years old, I remember watching them, massive amount of money, and they'd just be playing, gambling away money as if it was monopoly money. And Raymond Rees Dazzler used to have all the fish off the Coracle boys, and they all used to go to Billingsgate on the train, except for the ones that used to go to the local hotels. And Dazzler's son, Malcolm, he keeps on the reins, if you like, or keeps it going, the whole Coracle thing. And I'm an angler, and there's lots of friction between anglers and netsmen. But to be honest with you, there used to be enough fish in the river for everybody. And I've always seen the coracle men as allies. How can anybody who goes fishing for sport, for fun, dictate to somebody who does it, on a commercial for a living, on a commercial basis? You haven't really got to, you just want it for fun. But now it's gone with the river the state of it is now. It's a conservation issue now, a massive conservation issue. And I've seen the Towie, the numbers of fish in the Towie decline dramatically. The eels, you used to see eels on the River Gwilly, Tews Pool, and Sandy Bank is a waterfall there. And you used to see the eels, the elvers going up on the moss at the side of the waterfall, and it was just a carpet of elvers, like hundreds of thousands of elvers. And you'd see them on the river. You'd be walking on the Morver off the high bank, and you'd just see a black line 3 foot out from the bank, and it'd just be elvers, And now eels, I think there's only people who can't see them now, but nothing like they used to be. And it's just the eels, and we used to look at them as a nuisance. You now got the shad in the river. They're increasing in numbers. Never used to be that number of shad about when I was a child. If it was, you'd have caught a lot more of them, spinning and on the fly. But the shad have increased in size and in numbers. And as a sea trout suing fisherman, it can be a nuisance in the night when you go out on the fly, and at dusk or dark you get into a glide or a run, and then the shad just take over spawning, and they spawn on the top, they spin, and it's like a cauldron of water, like a washing machine going, and it just spooks everything, really does. It pushes the sea trout off the glide, and they're just in the way. It's a nuisance. Nationally, they're very rare on the Towie, they're flourishing. And the big concern I got with shad is the predation element to them. I don't think there's enough really known about them and their habits or what they do. But we tend to use, if you were spinning, it used to be a lane Irish minnow or a quill minnow. The quill minnow was replaced by the lane Irish minnow because it was heavier, and we called them paddies. They don't make them anymore, but they are very, very effective for catching sea trout. Very, very effective. And yeah, but you put a lane minnow or a paddy, small paddy, through a pool today, and with Polaroids, you see the shad chase them, and you catch shad one after another. To the extent where you can't fish a pool because of the number of shad that are there. Now, if they take in a thing that represents a small fish so easily, then I'm sure they'd be predating on juvenile sea trout and salmon. But yeah, there's not really enough known about them. The Collier boys will tell you they're getting bigger because they catch more bigger ones. I've caught them big. I've caught them over £3, and yeah, it's not pleasant when the cockfish melt on you. It's a very unpleasant sensation, one to be avoided at all costs. But the shad, yeah, I think the shad, there's the twites and the Alice, from what I can gather. I think one's bigger than the other. The bigger ones tend to spawn and stay in the river a little bit longer, but they normally gone on the spring tide in May, June, that sort of time they're gone. But yeah, this year I have to be standing on a glide off a high bank, looking down at a glide after having a couple of hours of sea trout, and the tide was down the lower part of the river, and in less than 20 minutes a friend and I counted 20 lampreys pushing up the glide. And they can really travel. Not nice looking things. And I forget, the River Towie, they diverted part of the River Towie. Our favourite part of the Towie, the Pool of Rifles, 22 pool, is now under the Eastern Bypass, Carmarthen Bypass. When they were pumping that out, and also the culvert, the pump house pool, there was a big pool, I used to call it, on as you went into Caibach on Rice's Marsh, below the parade. There was a big pool there, massive pool. We used to eel in it, that's where we used to go to catch eels. You used to cast the other side of the river, and if you knocked your bail arm over when your weight hit the water, it would end up at your feet. It was that deep, and all that went. And I'm sure those are big holding pools, big. They used to hold a lot of fish. So the Pool of Rifles, used to be salmon jumping there, 3, 4, 5 salmon at a time, and people really struggled to catch them. And when they drained it, they emptied that pool. It became apparent why, because obviously when they put the railway in to prevent the river from eroding to the railway bank, there's no tin works in Carmarthen within 100 metres, 200 metres of the pool, and I think they tipped slag onto the top of the bank, or to reinforce the banks. So on the Rifles pool and the 22 and the glide of the 22, you had like an iron clinker, and obviously this prevented erosion. But when they drained it, you could see that had gone down about 8 foot, but below that was like a cave had been dug out by the river, an undercut, and obviously the fish used to lay under that undercut, and then they'd come up under the trees and show feet from the bank, and then they'd drop back underneath it. Well, anybody casting a lure to them, or casting a fly to them, or casting a worm, never ever reached them, because they laid well under the bank, 10 foot back under the bank.